What if true intimacy, the deep stuff, isn't just physical? What if it's really about navigating vulnerability, figuring out who we are, and supporting each other's mental health, especially when young love is just starting? For you listening, how can a story really illuminate that complex journey of self-discovery and connection? Today, we're looking closely at Heartstopper Volume 3. It's a graphic novel that takes us on this, really profound journey with Nick Nelson and Charlie Spring during their school trip to Paris. And it's not just a sweet romance, right? It's a detailed look at vulnerability, support, and the kind of complexities young people grapple with.
Exactly. And our goal here is to really unpack the key insights from this book. We want to focus on its nuanced take on relationships, mental health, LGBTQ plus identity, all of it. We're aiming to pull out the most important bits of knowledge, maybe some surprising facts, to help you get truly well-informed about its themes and, importantly, its ethical representation.
Right. And speaking of insights, just a quick mention of Mindful Moments. That's our YouTube channel. It offers AI book analysis, really designed to inspire reflection and critical thinking, kind of like what we're aiming for here. Okay, so let's unpack this. The core of Heartstopper Volume 3. It really centers on Nick and Charlie. Their relationship clearly deepens a lot during this Paris trip. But beyond the surface romance, what's really compelling is their approach to intimacy and how they navigate being a couple, publicly.
Yeah, what really stands out is how they actually confront those unspoken feelings. They establish boundaries, and with such care, too. The book gives us this remarkably mature picture of teen romance. It focuses so much on emotional readiness and these open conversations about consent, their hesitation, actually, to get more physical. It kind of goes against common expectations for teen romance, doesn't it?
It really does.
It prioritizes their mutual growth, their understanding. It teaches us that real connection, it isn't rushed. It's built on feeling safe emotionally and respect.
So for you listening, that really highlights how crucial emotional readiness and clear consent are. They're like cornerstones for any deep relationship, whatever the age.
Absolutely.
But it's not just Nick and Charlie, is it? The book, it does this beautiful job of broadening the view to other relationships that are evolving, like Tao and Elle.
Right. Tao and Elle's shift from friendship to something potentially romantic. It's shown with all the, inherent challenges. It makes it clear that moving from platonic to romantic feelings can be complex, maybe a bit awkward sometimes, but ultimately really rewarding.
That vulnerability of potentially losing a friend.
Yeah, exactly. The book really leans into that fear. And then you have Tara and Darcy. We get to see specific milestones for them, like their origin story as a couple. This normalization of different queer experiences throughout the story, it just enriches the whole ensemble. It shows a whole spectrum of relationships, first crushes, established couples. It makes the world feel incredibly real and inclusive.
That's a strong statement, isn't it?
Yeah.
That love in all its forms is just normal, beautiful.
Precisely.
And the book, it definitely doesn't shy away from the really complex stuff either. Charlie Spring, for example, he faces some significant internal struggles. How does Heartstopper manage to address mental health in such a poignant way, but also subtly? What can we learn from that approach?
Well, take Charlie's eating disorder. Oseman handles it with remarkable subtlety. You see it often through very specific visual cues, like you'll have panels where he's skipping meals, or you just see that palpable anxiety around food, sometimes just him staring at a plate, looking distant.
Right. It's not spelled out in big letters.
Exactly. It avoids that overt dramatization or, preachy dialogue that can sometimes sensationalize these things. Instead, it quietly shows his internal struggles. And it gently emphasizes that need for professional support. It makes the portrayal feel very realistic, very sensitive.
And that subtlety, for you listening, it's a powerful reminder, isn't it? That support often needs to be offered before someone explicitly asks for help. It really pushes for a compassionate, observant approach to well-being.
Yeah, definitely.
And Nick's role in this is so crucial. His support for Charlie. How does his dedication really underline the importance of communication when facing challenges like these?
Oh, Nick's efforts are absolutely central. It's not just a side story. It showcases such a positive example of partnership, of care. What's really striking is that he doesn't try to fix Charlie. He doesn't have the answers.
No, he listens.
He listens, he does research, he validates Charlie's feelings, and he just consistently reminds him he's not alone in this. It's like a masterclass in empathy and active support. It really emphasizes that open, honest communication, even when it's really hard, is the foundation of a healthy relationship.
For anyone reading, it really shows the power of being a true ally, a partner, especially when someone you care about is going through something tough.
Mm-hmm.
But even with these struggles, Charlie shows incredible resilience sometimes, like when he confronts his bully. It brings up an interesting question, right? How does the book balance showing these realistic challenges with this feeling of hope, of growth?
It is a delicate balance, and I think Oseman handles it beautifully. That confrontation with Harry, the bully, it's a key moment of agency for Charlie. Even with all his anxiety and vulnerability, he stands up for himself and for Nick.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't magically fix his eating disorder, obviously, but it shows that even in darker moments, there are these flashes of inner strength, of progress. The book consistently highlights that healing.
Well, it's a journey, isn't it? Not some final destination. Growth comes from facing challenges, accepting support, finding your voice. It offers hope, not through some unrealistic fairy tale, but through that genuine, sometimes messy, but ultimately empowering process of self-acceptance and getting help.
Identity is another massive theme here, especially in the LGBTQ plus context. Beyond just Nick and Charlie, how does the book work to normalize diverse queer experiences?
It really excels at that, weaving diverse experiences into the fabric of the story through the secondary characters. You see it with Tara, who's lesbian, and Darcy, who's non-binary. They're just living their lives, having joy, facing challenges like any couple.
And the teachers, too. Yes, even teachers like Mr. Ajayi and Mr. Farouk add to this wider picture of queer identities just being a natural, integrated part of their world. It's not treated as an exception or something up for debate. That kind of pervasive inclusion creates this incredibly accepting, affirming environment, both for the characters and I think for the reader, too. It subtly teaches that diverse identities aren't just valid, they're entirely normal, deserving of love and respect.
And then there's Nick's coming out process. It's very gradual, particularly with his friends. How does that challenge the idea that you have to make some big public declaration immediately? And how does it connect back to Charlie's past?
Nick's journey is such a powerful counter-narrative, really. It shows that self-acceptance and sharing your truth, it's a deeply personal thing. It unfolds at your own pace. He doesn't feel this immediate pressure to put a label on himself publicly. Instead, he navigates figuring out his bisexuality thoughtfully, telling close friends when he feels ready.
Which challenges that societal expectation of a big coming out moment.
Absolutely. And that gradual approach is also deeply tied to Charlie's fear, his fear of exposing Nick to homophobia. That fear is rooted in Charlie's own traumatic past, being outed and bullied. The book just masterfully shows how past trauma can shape present anxieties, and how healthy relationships respect and navigate those really complex emotional landscapes together.
Yeah.
So if you connect this to the bigger picture, the book's real strength is in its ethical representation. It manages to balance showing LGBTQ plus joy, the beauty of these relationships, but also the realistic challenges that can come with it. And it does this without exploiting or sensationalizing anything.
That nuanced approach, it promotes such empathy, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And supports healthy development by showing authentic ways to navigate identity, mental health, relationships.
It really offers a kind of blueprint for understanding that joy and struggle can exist side by side, and that resilience is found in connection and support.
So, thinking about Alice Oseman's craft,
Yeah.
how does she achieve this incredible emotional depth, often with what looks like quite minimalist artwork?
Her strength is definitely in that subtextual storytelling. She masterfully uses these subtle visual cues to convey huge amounts of emotional depth, often without needing much dialogue at all.
Like Nick's clenched fists during phone calls.
Exactly. Or think about just a simple panel showing a character looking away, or a slight tilt of the head, or even just the way two characters hold hands. Those tiny details can speak volumes about internal conflict, or unspoken affection, or growing comfort. These nonverbal cues pull you right into their emotional world.
Without needing a single word sometimes.
Right. And her dialogue, it brilliantly avoids being didactic. She doesn't preach or give you heavy exposition. Instead, it's the characters' actions, their natural conversations, their honest vulnerability. That's what drives the themes of acceptance, resilience, love. It feels incredibly organic.
And the setting itself, Paris, plays a big part too, right?
Yeah.
Those iconic landmarks, the Eiffel Tower, the Seine,
Yeah.
they often symbolize this romantic idealism. How does that contrast with the characters' very real, often difficult internal struggles?
That contrast, that juxtaposition is really key to the book's depth. Paris, the city of love, it often represents this perfect, idealized romance. But while Nick and Charlie are exploring these iconic places, they're simultaneously dealing with their deepest anxieties and vulnerabilities.
So the romance isn't just fluffy clouds.
Not at all. The romanticism of climbing the Eiffel Tower is undercut by Charlie's internal battle with food, or Nick's quiet worry about Charlie's health. The beautiful Seine River might look peaceful, but underneath, the characters are navigating these turbulent emotions.
It grounds the idealism in reality.
Exactly. It shows that true love isn't just about grand gestures and pretty places. It's about supporting each other through the everyday challenges, even the painful ones. It symbolizes that even in the most romantic settings, real life happens and genuine connection shines brightest when vulnerability is shared.
Absolutely. The book's significance really comes through as this case study in ethical representation. Its nuanced approach to mental health and identity makes it such a valuable resource for talking about empathy, about adolescent development. It provides a way to understand complex emotions in a way that feels relatable.
It really does. It shows us that vulnerability can actually be a strength, and that true acceptance comes from understanding and embracing ourselves and those we love, including all the perceived flaws.
Okay, so let's just quickly recap the core takeaways from this incredible book. We've touched on the mature way relationships are navigated, built on emotional readiness and consent, the nuanced and deeply empathetic way mental health struggles are portrayed, and that authentic exploration of identity and acceptance within the LGBTQ plus community.
Which really brings us to an important question, I think, for all of us. In a world that's craving genuine connection, what does Heartstopper Volume 3 ultimately teach us? What does it teach us about that quiet strength we find when we support the people we love? And maybe the courage it takes to really let ourselves be seen for who we truly are.
That's a great thought to end on. And remember, for even deeper understanding and to keep honing your critical thinking, you can explore Mindful Moments on YouTube. And of course, keep tuning into our podcast for more insights like these. If you found this discussion insightful, please subscribe to the show. Share it with someone you think might need to hear it. And check the description for a link if you'd like to grab a copy of this incredible book for yourself, or maybe for a friend. And as always, keep thinking critically about the stories that shape us.